My name is Drew Worden, and I'm the Assistant Dean of the Entrepreneurship program here at NEC, and really glad to welcome you all to what I think is the first time we've had a pitch competition here at NEC. Yeah, we're very, very excited about it. The way that tonight's going to work, we have 10-minute slots for each presenter. It's going to be 3-minute pitches followed by 5 minutes of Q&A with our wonderful panel that we have here. And we're going to move through really, really quickly. So we understand people have to come in and out. That's totally fine. Just try to do so quietly. Also, a heads up that we are live streaming this event. So don't get too rowdy in the back. You know, keep it classy for our Facebook audience as well. So thanks again for being here, and I'll introduce our first presenter, Darrin Dean.
Hi, my name is Darren Dean. I'm a fourth-year jazz vocalist here at NEC, and my EM Grow Your Art grant is called Bridges. A bridge is a structure that connects two landscapes together, or in a musical context, a passage that connects two sections of a composition. My EM Grow Your Art project is called Bridges, and it contains new and original music as well as jazz standards that unites two generations, the young and the old. Bridges consists of 7 songs, a live studio audience recording, and contains themes of love, social justice, and expresses my experience as a woman in jazz. My collaborators include noteworthy artists and award-winning writers, guest performances, and women in music. I have a crowdfunding goal of $20,000 to be raised by December 2018, in addition to the total budget. Prior to today, in 2018, in the summer, I raised $6,700, and I began to crowdfund, and I exceeded my minimum goal. This concert that culminated the event completely sold out, and I had 72 supporters that pushed and actively supported. The EM Grow Your Art grant would help me not only monetarily, but to provide support, marketing, and branding and one-on-one infrastructure necessary. I'm a proud ambassador for the Flame Campaign Jazz and have partnered with them and the Harmony Project Foundation to be executive producers on my EP. I have a 2-tier marketing plan for Bridges. I want to market to millennials and to baby boomers. I will employ the millennial generation by using streaming platforms such as iTunes and Spotify, while using more traditional modes of communication with the baby boomers like email or traditional CDs. Women in jazz don't really get to have their narrative told. A study done by the JIA said 72% of musicians in jazz were adult men, and followed by an NEA research stated that the most population in men, stated that most audiences in jazz listeners are men. My project wants to include women and have their voices heard in addition to mine. The bridge is where I meet, the bridge is where I cross, and I expand, and I invite my audience members as well as myself to tell new stories. After I graduate this May in 2019, I see myself touring and really sharing what I have to offer. Thank you.
Darren, I have a question for you. Can you tell me a little bit what the Flame Project is?
So the Flame Campaign is a new organization that advocates for the preservation and support of young artists. And so the Flame Campaign puts on events and holds panel discussions and provides infrastructure for jazz artists who want to make it in the industry after they graduate college.
Okay, thank you.
Ask a question. Hi, You talk about the role of women in your project, and you gave some specific about the equality or disparity in your field. But would you be a little more elaborate on that, especially in your own project? What's the ratio like, or how many women are you gonna do? Are you gonna hire? And also, if you have composers, can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So it's really important to have inclusivity, and as a woman, I want to produce my own music and compose, and also elicit my friends. Some great pianists that are locally based from Los Angeles, where I'm from, are Patrice Rushen, Eris Pierce, people that grew up in the Leimert Park community that I want to invite to be a part of the project, and also while I'm out here, collaborate with my peers from Berkeley and make connections with some of my friends to be on the project as well.
Thank you.
Darrin, can you talk a little bit about the people that you've already engaged? I see that you've sort of separated out the two groups of people, the cohorts, millennials and baby boomers. So can you talk about you've engaged with through the different fundraising campaigns, and also I noticed your sold-out concert. Do you have a sense of the demographic of the people that came to see you live?
Yes. So over the summer, I released a music video called The Last Day of Summer that had young visuals. It was me walking on the beach, but it was a song done by my mentor who is almost 90 years old. So I wanted to put young visuals to an older song, and a lot of my peers through YouTube and through Facebook were commenting and shared it, and that was also promotional use for the concert that sold out. So while the demographic of concert goers for my culminating performance were usually between the ages of 40 to 50, I had a lot of online support from my peers, and I also engaged the support in the community from Los Angeles as they attended the concert.
Great. Thanks, Darrin.
Thank you.
Is Anto here? Anto, okay, great. Ready for me to hit this?
Yeah, this works, right?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Anto Malkasian, and I'll be talking to you about my project, Citizen Displaced. It's sad to see these images. I remember when I first saw them, I felt powerless, and I wanted to do something about it. This is a very personal topic for me, and also my friend, composer Pablo Salazar, who wrote the music for this project, because we're both immigrants in this country from Syria and Bolivia, respectively. Art has the power to bring people together, and we want to bring awareness about the refugee crisis with our project. We will use the power of our performance to make our statement very effective to our audience. Besides that, we also wanted to offer our audience a new way of expression. We wanted to offer them something different. So what we did was we combined 3 forms of art together: music, dance, and visual arts, as you could see in the pictures. Our rehearsal spaces are creative, and we come up with new ideas all the time. We're constantly in collaboration with each other, and this also allows us to include improvisation in our performances. To give you a better idea of what our final product was last year, which was completely volunteer-based, I have a video that I would love to show you from last year. could see how we're constantly exchanging ideas with the dancers. Musicians are moving as dancers, which is something the audience has probably rarely seen these days. To keep this project going and to keep bringing awareness about this cause, we would need the appropriate funding for many reasons. First, we need to be able to pay our performers. To have it professionally done, it's very vital. And also, it would really help us to have a rehearsal space booked and the performance halls. Second, we need to keep our project sustainable and keep improving our business model so we can do better, get better and better at it every time. Finally, we want to keep launching our creative ideas, keep our community involved, and keep coming with creative ideas and integrate concepts such as improvisation and collaborations with dancers into our project. As artists in today's world, it's very vital for us to keep involved in causes like the refugee crisis, and we hope that with the help of this grant, we'll be able to keep doing that. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Can we ask questions, or is it, or do we not have time?
We have 5 minutes for questions.
I have a question. So what is your mode of distribution for the project? Like
Main motive?
your mode. What platform will you use for distribution to make a lot of people be able to see and hear the project?
Yeah, you mean like to advertise it?
No, in what format will you put it in front of your audience?
Oh, so as you saw there, we would have a performance space would look something similar like this. This would be a great one, actually. And basically, musicians are interacting together with the dancers, and the audience would sit there. Like
okay, so, but I mean around the world, how are people going to know about this and hear about, so that you can have the impact that you want to have? It has to go beyond this room, right?
Yes.
So how do you plan to do that?
Yeah, we're advertising it on the social media. We have, without even us trying the first time, we had some article write about us, which we found out about, which was amazing. And we had so many people show up to our event without us trying. So it's already grabbing people's attention, and by spreading on social media, we have our connections. I played with in the Divan Orchestra, and I have members there that could help me internationally, and we all have international connections. I know people in Armenia, even some of my friends are still in Syria. Pablo knows a lot of people in Bolivia, so we have a lot of ways that we can expand and get our project out there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Anto.
Hi.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the audience reception was at your first performance? So you did a show last year. So
yes.
like, how was the audience? What were their thoughts on it?
How was the audience's reaction?
Yeah, or like, was it well attended? Did you have a big crowd?
Yeah, sure. We were lucky enough to have the school provide us a hall that time, and it was all completely volunteer based. So it fit. It was a full house. We had 250 people, I believe. And we didn't charge them for tickets since it was our first time and volunteer-based. However, we did ask them for donations. And the audience came in like hearing about this thing that it's a new collaboration, new dance, musicians are dancing, visual effects. So all of this was already like very exciting for them. And then the effect was just very shocking to everyone. They did not, I don't think anyone expected that, and they were all blown away. We raised donations. After the performance, we had a list of places people could donate to, like UNCHR, the United Nations, and a lot of them actually ended up donating, and they came after the performance to us and asked questions of how they can keep getting involved and support the project. So it was a very good turnout, and we had a full house. We hope that next time we'll be able to, with the help of this grant, that we'll be able to sell tickets and have it even more professionally done, because a lot of the musicians and dancers we had, it was really hard to ask them for time commitments because of, at the end, they're volunteering. So I think with the help of the grant, we can do a much better job next time. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, all set.
Thanks.
Composers, hear us. We are women, we have voices too. My name is Julia Cohen, and I am a vocalist at NEC, and this is my wonderful collaborator, Lingbo Ma. What you just heard is an excerpt from a Florence B. Price piece here, Hold Fast to Dreams. Florence B. Price was the first African-American woman composer to be recognized, and the first African-American composer to be nationally recognized. Yet she has even disappeared in obscurity and has only recently been rediscovered. Hear Us is a concert and lecture series featuring women composers that I am presenting in Boston this spring at 6 educational venues to young adults. As you just heard, I'll present pieces by 6 women composers and include a short lecture about their path as women in music. Through the funding, I will commission an NEC composer, as I find it critical to be an advocate for currently active artists. Hereof stems off my American Women Composer Concert and Lecture series that I won last year through a grant at NEC, and Lingbo and I presented in spring in Boston. I'm hiring a professional videographer to combine footage from my grant last year with footage from Hear Us, this series this year. I will create a promotional kit that features collaborations and interviews from composers that were present, so that in the future I can present this series in different states at educational venues that have potentially lost funding. I'm focusing on educational venues because one of my performances last year was with the Boston City Singers, and a young girl came up to me and said today was the first day that she liked classical music. This format is an especially impactful way to introduce young adults to the world of classical music, as they resonate with the stories and passions that these composers went through as they are exploring their own life paths as well. Hear Us serves as a platform to spread beautiful classical music while discussing the hardships and struggles of women in music, in the hopes of inspiring young adults to push themselves to make their mark in the world and to value others' contributions. Thank you.
I have a quick question, Julia. How did you choose which venues to partner with this project?
So I actually had a lot of help from the EM department and from the CPP department at NEC. And I combined a CPP style performance to perform at the Boston City Singers and had that connection. And that's when I realized I wanted to do educational venues for this series. But I also performed at Air Mansion through a connection with the EM department. And that was a really wonderful performance. It was in a Mozart style parlor room. And this is a place that
women students in Boston live. So it was a really beautiful, small space. And then my other collaboration was with the Boston Synagogue, which is this very small synagogue that welcomes music. And that brought in a whole different audience, scaling different ages. And I realized it was great to get my story last year out there, but I wanted to make more of a targeted group. And I find that young adults can be very impacted by the stories of these composers, even if they're not going through into music, but it can still be inspiring and help them pursue their passions.
Thanks.
Julie, are the settings high schools, the ones that you have lined up for this spring?
It's a range. I would like to do high schools. I also have done a lot of collaborations with younger styles, and I am creating a program that's the same, but I can cater it to different ages. And I'm collaborating with different venues like the Boston City Singers to get into organizations as well. So it doesn't have to be a school setting, but I want it to be educational for the young adults, so it doesn't need to be a school setting, if that makes sense.
And just a quick follow-up, so are you personally delivering the lecture portion as well?
Yes. So how it's set up, which I tried to do a little sample, a very rushed sample, but before each composer, I do about 3 pieces of theirs. I give a 3 to 5 minute presentation, and I explain their stories, their struggles, and with the composers that are living, I reached out to them and I interviewed them, and they gave me advice on how they would like to share their stories with people. So I shared those quotes as well. And then I sing, and then I go on and do the lecture portion, and I sing, and it happens for an hour. And then there's a Q&A.
Thank you.
Great. So the project funds 6 of these events for 6 different composers, each one focused on one composer, or no?
No.
I misunderstood, I'm sorry.
Yes. I will be featuring 6 composers with each performance.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I guess.
So 36 composers.
No, I see that's the confusing part. 6 performances, 6 composers in each performance, few pieces of each. I realize I use the same number. So 10 minutes on each composer.
Okay.
Within each performance. Thank you.
Hi, I am Eddy Kass, and I am 50% of Departure Duo, a soprano and double bass duo committed to expanding repertoire specifically written for that combination of high and low. We're particularly interested in how theatricality and extended techniques can expand the range of expression and color for performers and further engage audiences. So before I continue, let me show you a little bit of what we do. That's a video from a performance we had recently in New York. So one of our big long-term projects we call 30 by 30, which is aimed at creating 30 hours of soprano bass repertoire by the year 2030. It's a two-prong project, one prong being research and finding all the existing soprano bass repertoire, which is a lot of going through every single page of Google searches. But the other part, which with this grant will help, is commissions. Commissioning has been a big part of our activity as a duo, and in our last season, which was the inaugural year of 30 by 30, we premiered 6 different works in a variety of concerts we did, including a teaching residency at University of Georgia, recitals in Boston and New York, and a recital presented by Spoleto Festival in Charleston. With the help of this grant, we will be able to continue that work by commissioning 3 composers, Emily Praetorius, Jesse Diener-Bennett, and Adam Kenaugh, to premiere new works written by them in our spring concerts, which will perform following our artist residency at Yellow Barn in March, where we'll have the opportunity to really refine and perfect these works, getting them ready for their premieres. Our motivating factor behind this project is we want other people to realize how much potential there is in soprano and bass. We want performers to realize it, we want composers to realize it, and audiences, because it's a great combination that has a huge variety of colors and sounds possible. And in fact, in the time that we've been commissioning and performing, we've already seen some of the impact this project has had with works that we have commissioned and premiered, performed at places like Banff, Bang on a Can, Neef North, and National Sawdust. And it's our hope that with the support of NEC and this grant, we'll be able to continue that work.
Eddy, how have you, what's the process you've gone through to commission some of the works you've premiered already?
So we've had, last year a set of works premiered. We did a big fundraising campaign, reached out through our mailing list, did lots of work, just advertising and fundraising, sort of a crowdfunding model through Fractured Atlas. We're fiscally sponsored, so donations that come to us are tax deductible. So we did a bunch of stuff, raised over $5,000 to pay for these commissions. Occasionally we're very lucky and a composer will just gift us a work, but we really believe in always paying composers for their work, which is why we've avoided the call for scores model, which I feel sort of exploits composers into giving their work away for free. So we always want to pay composers, which is why we love grants, but also are committed to fundraising in like various rounds. We always do like an end of the year appeal, and then we do specific asks for projects.
And just a quick follow-up, have there been any presenters who have expressed their interest in having you maybe either return to places you've been already or would be partnering with these in this 30 by 30 project?
We have been sort of growing support, sometimes from specific composers. Kate Soper will be writing something for us once she finishes her opera, and we have been presented by John Aylward, who teaches at Clark, and we've been presented by Clark, and he is a composer who gave us a piece recently, which will be premiering next month. We've also been forming partnerships with more schools where there's composition faculty who are interested in writing for us and having us play works of theirs. So sometimes we are able to do like the masterclass format at schools and also present recitals there, and that if the school gives funding to the faculty member, that helps pay for the commissions and project.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about your promotional strategies? So whether that's for general awareness around the project or the duo and or specifically like concert-based promotions?
Yeah. So we do a lot of that now on social media. We have an active Instagram presence with a growing following and get very positive feedback on that. And we have our Facebook page, website. We always send out press releases to just whatever publications do the sort of classical music or contemporary music calendars for the arts things in different cities. And we also try to do a lot of like grassroots things, reaching out to composers and performers in whatever city we're going to. So if we have connections with faculty members at a school, we're gonna be playing in Baltimore next month. So we've reached out to our network at Peabody to try and get interest there. We'll make posters that we'll send to people to put up. But it's largely based in social media and spreading stuff out that way. We'll always remember to like boost posts as we get closer to the concerts and increase the frequency with which we post.
Do we have time for one more? Eddy, I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about sort of the spark for this idea for the two of you to come together, because it's very clear how passionate you are about it, and that video is fantastic. And I feel like that would really add to your story if people knew how you and Nina found each other. Were you both looking to put this together, or how did that happen?
So it started, we knew each other just because we were both students at NEC, right. And the first time we performed together, we knew the kind of work each other was doing, and so we admired each other as musicians and were friends. The first time we played together was in chamber music at NEC. We did a complete performance of George Crumb's Madrigals, which are a set of 4 books, each with 3 songs that have soprano, bass, percussion, flute, and harp. And the whole group was great, but we particularly enjoyed playing with each other. And then this piece, actually, that the video is from, is a work by one of my favorite composers, György Kurtág, and I had played a bunch of his other music, and I knew that he had this soprano bass piece, which took me 5 months to actually get a physical copy of the score, but it's a different story. So we decided, we're like, let's do this piece. We love Kurtág. Once we played that and really started working on that heavily, we were like, we need to keep playing together, because it's so rare to find someone for chamber music who you're willing to spend that much time with, able to rehearse that often with, and like on the same page in terms of the amount of work you need to do behind the scenes that's not actually performing. And so it's not like we sought out like, let's do soprano and bass. It was sort of this discovery for us as well, like as we started to come across new pieces, and as we still get new pieces by composers and find new pieces that are out there, just seeing the way different composers have worked with it, and we're like, people need to see this music, people need to hear this music, people need to perform it, and if we're the only ones doing this, we need to keep doing it more so that we're not alone.
Thank you.
I have a question along a similar line, in which you talk about advocating for other soprano-based duos, because it's such a special chamber music sound. And I wonder if you've thought about doing outreach to other groups, around the country, around the world, that are established doing this, that might be playing the pieces you play.
There's only really one other contemporary classical soprano-based duo, which is Evan Primo and Mary Bonhag, who live up in Vermont. And
you're not threatening them.
No, we love them. And we've applied for grants, because they run a chamber music concert series in Vermont, and so we've applied for grants to do a concert where both of us will perform together, because we have very, very different aesthetics, but are related. We've played some music written for them. They're not as actively commissioning and trying to grow the repertoire, though Evan writes some stuff. But so we have worked with them to try and create stuff. We'll also commission a piece for 2 sopranos and 2 basses. So that's one thing.
I just would say that the advocacy part caught my eye as a strong component of your proposal.
And so we're always trying to, anytime we find someone, this summer I was a fellow at Tanglewood, and one of the pieces that we've played a bunch was Programmed, so another bassist and soprano played it. And so I spent a lot of time talking to those people, like, okay, you played this, you liked this piece, here's this other music you should play, it's great. And so I'm always trying to get more people to, to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Grow Your Art panel. My name is Eungi Cho, and I'm a current doctoral candidate in cello performance at NEC, and the founder and artistic director of the Melon Music Festival. The Melon Music Festival is a chamber music festival that promotes the awareness of and appreciation for diversity through classical music performance. Our first year, last May, included new commissions and world premieres by professionals and NEC students, significantly financially affordable concerts in venues ranging from breweries to cathedrals, masterclasses and outreach concerts within the local public school system, more than 20 professional musicians specializing in a variety of genres from jazz to classical, folk, and funk music, and sponsorships from ardent supporters that set up the financial groundwork for the festival's longevity. The reason why I'm standing in front of you today is to realize the festival's constant pursuit of music's true potential to change our lives. As cheesy as that may sound, the inaugural year of the festival exposed some undeniable shortcomings in the scope of our publicity, leading us to more aggressively pursue two very related avenues. First, how can we make classical music relevant in our modern society? And second, how can we reach out to those underserved communities when classical music performance is seen as such a stereotypically stuffy and highbrow art form? The Grow Your Art grant will achieve exactly what the title suggests. Building on or growing the already existing festival model, the $5,000 grant will provide the resources that would allow us to engage a universally curious audience and redefine the festival's universal accessibility. The pursuit of programs that combine audience accessibility with musical vitality and complexity will be supported by a new interdisciplinary initiative that combines art forms, in one case, collaborating across performance mediums to choreograph a hip-hop inspired modern dance routine to a live performance of Debussy's Petite Suite, educational outreach, especially in underserved communities, sensually stimulating programs, unconventional settings, and high-level performance experiences. Witnessing each community's literal life changes as a performing artist and recognizing the urgent need for community-supported arts representation are catalysts for rapid dissemination of this model and further development of this festival and other festival models. I'm convinced that the success and undeniably positive influence of such a vigorous reintroduction of classical music into the mainstream will redefine the popularity of the genre and ultimately improve the lives of all those involved, regardless of class or background. Thank you.
Eungi, can you talk a little about what community the Melon Music Festival is serving? Like, what geographic look? Is it an urban area? Is it, does it have any kind of, competitors in this space? That kind of thing.
The city is Davis, California, which is a small college town, about 2 hours towards the countryside of San Francisco.
And do they have any kind of any other summer festivals that exist at the moment, or?
The closest one that I know of is a summer festival in San Francisco, but that is within the city, and Davis is considered suburban/rural population.
Okay. Thanks.
Just sort of to push a little farther on that, can you tell us about, like you say you want to work with underserved communities, what sort of like infrastructure or setup do you have? Do you have connections to those avenues yet, or have you built sort of partnerships with schools or anything like that in Davis?
Yes, Davis is a city that I grew up in, and I was engaged in the school music program there, and every time I go back to the city just to visit my parents, there are always things that I engage in. For example, with social outreach, we'll do a lot of concerts in areas of the public school system that are especially low income, that comprise of especially low-income students, and we'll engage in concerts, small public lessons, and I guess instrument petting zoos as often as we can. But these are all very small-scale activities that we do and are very individualized.
Maybe one more question, Eungi. Last summer, if you had to choose the most successful part of your festival last summer, what would it be? Just one thing. Like, what had the most impact?
The reason why this grant will be the most valuable thing for the progress of the festival is that when we see audience members that we had never met before, that we had never actively reached out to, that's kind of incredible how much word can spread, how much people can be inspired by this music to engage a bigger community, even without our active involvement. So this is something that we wanted to kind of extrapolate it throughout the community with new techniques of doing so more effectively and more actively, because we do think that this can expand infinitely.
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned specific site location, unusual places for some of the concerts. Can you give us a couple examples of how you've done that?
Yes, so our first few concerts actually took place at a brewery, which is a local brewery, and they made a custom brew for us for the concert, and so that attracted a very different population than we had expected.
Changes the demographic.
A little bit. And similar to that, the city of Davis is very much known for agriculture and kind of energy-saving techniques. So one of our concerts also took place in a solar panel warehouse that sells solar panels to the community. So we engaged them. At the beginning, they were so fascinated by the idea, and we held our performance in that space.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, my second question is, you know, I love Davis. It's a beautiful part of the country, and I've played there a fair amount. And there's an enormous University of California campus in the town, right, that sort of defines the environment a little bit, at least the way I experience, but also the Mondavi Center is in Davis, right? And, which has a big viniculture program, but is also a presenter. So I just wonder if you have reached out to either of those two institutions to try to partner.
Yes, we're actually, through this grant, we are looking to partner up with a very specific location on the UC Davis campus. We found that we don't conflict demographic-wise with this audience because, as you might know, the concerts for Mondavi Center can be well above $100 per ticket. And the concerts that we offer are free for everyone under 18 and $10 is general. So this is something that we thought we could engage a very different community within the UC Davis campus, and we are looking forward to that.
Good answer. Thank you.
Good. Well, good.
Hello, and thanks for having me tonight. My name is Holly Druckman. 2 years ago, I founded a chamber choir at NEC, and it's grown into something beyond anything that any of us could have dreamed of. Now, my ensemble, Cartas, is seeking financial assistance to help us fund our first season as a professional ensemble. Until now, we've been a student group, and we want to rebrand ourselves in the minds of our audience with the aim of doing more challenging, more important work in the future. Cartas is a choir dedicated to exploring music on the fringes of the vocal chamber repertoire. Our first program included a motet that hadn't been done for about 500 years, that I transcribed from manuscript, which was a lot of fun, but that's another story. We used between 8 to 10 singers for each of our concerts. All of them are current or recent NEC students, and we're always looking to bring in new members. And a lot of the singing that we do is one on a part. And they come from a variety of disciplines as well, from traditional opera singing to jazz to composition. We have 5 full-length concert programs under our belt already, which represent over 50 composers, early and modern. And we're committed to giving back to the NEC community. We've already performed in Jordan Hall twice, and we've coached with Blue Heron 2 times and coached with John Heiss 3 times. The Grow Your Art grant will go towards 3 specific projects for us. The first is venue rental. We have connections with St. Paul's Church in Cambridge, and we're investigating renting performance space there, as well as at the community church in Back Bay. Second, we'd like to make high-level recordings of our performances, which is something that we haven't really focused on yet. We'll hire sound engineers going forward and use these recordings to apply for further grants, festivals, and the like. Third, and most importantly to me, is that we want to pay our artists for their work and our composers. We're commissioning music from 4 composers from within the ensemble this year: James Walsh, Jordan Reynolds, Tyler Boak, and Jacob Heiser, to create a repertoire just for us, signature pieces by people who know our voices and our strengths intimately. Finally, why us? We've been putting in the hard musical work at school for 2 years already, with much to show for it. We're already well established within the NEC community. Our multi-talented musicians can bring a huge variety of challenging pieces to life. And as the founder and conductor, I've spent the past several months developing the business side of our musicianship. I've been working with local composers and at local events. I've been investigating other grants, fiscal sponsorship, and starting us off as a 501c3. I've set up a Patreon page, a mailing list, and a website with the aim of growing our audience and rewarding our current one. I'm in this for the long haul, in short. The bottom line is that Cartas has grown exponentially over the course of the past 2 years, and it will continue to do so. The Grow Your Art grant will kickstart that process and see us grow in a financially stable way. And I'd like to leave you with a little music. Thank you very much for your time.
Hi, my question goes through your target audience outside the NEC community. How can you elaborate what's the audience and how is the attendance? How is the attendance diversity within, like, outside a school?
Sure. So, what I can say to that is that really what's at the heart of our mission is discovery. So we're looking to make our concerts as accessible as possible for people to discover this music that we've really fallen in love with. So to that end, we're looking to advertise in unusual places, as well as all the normal services: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, create a following there. We would be grateful, obviously, for EM's guidance in this, because this is something that we're new to, frankly. But, you know, if we can make even one person fall in love with this music that we've fallen in love with, make these new discoveries, then we've done our job, as far as I'm concerned.
I think I have a follow-up to that question, Holly. So I noticed in your grant, the written portion of your grant, you mentioned that the vocal chamber music scene in Boston is thriving, and you named some other vocal chamber groups.
Yes.
And it's clear to me how you're explaining how your group is different. But I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the overlap, as far as, is there overlap in the audiences, or are there overlaps in the audiences?
Oh, sure.
And are you in a place where you would maybe share, you know, email lists and things like that with these groups? Or,
yeah.
Are you collaborating in those ways?
We haven't, but it's a wonderful idea, and I will certainly take you up on it. Yeah, I think I don't think that we'll necessarily be competing for audience members, because each of these groups has something very different to offer. And in Boston, especially at this time, we're kind of living in a golden age of vocal chamber music. So there's an audience for it, and people really want to come hear it. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we'll have a problem in in getting people to come. And we'll certainly try to cross-pollinate with other ensembles, exchanging ad places in our programs, mailing lists, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a question. What's your like 5 or 10 or 20-year like dream vision for this group? Like where does it sit in your life, or how much of your time does it take up, or what does it look like?
Oh my goodness. My dream...
I know you may not have a like, oh well, I know that answer right now.
I'm not sure I can answer that in only a minute, but my dream someday is to have my own ensemble. When I came to NEC, I came here to study conducting and musicology. My focus is in Renaissance music, and I want to have a high-level ensemble with which I can introduce the world to these works that I love so much. And so I view this as my life's work, as something that, if not a full-time job for me, would certainly be a significant amount of the work that I do as a musician and an educator going forward. For the musicians who make up my ensemble, I imagined that since it's kind of a rotating cast of people with several core members, I imagined that I would pay them generously per concert, but it would be more of a, you know, getting people together 3 times a year to perform concert spaces. Is that
that's great.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yay. Okay, wait. Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Eckery and I'm the founder of El Paso Jazz Girls. We're requesting $5,000 to grow our 2019 summer program by hiring 3 additional teaching artists, covering their transportation costs, and ensuring that our program remains cost-free for participants. In the last decade, only 7 girls have made Texas All-State Jazz Band. That's less than 2% of participants. National bands like Jazz at Lincoln Center have had 0 females since its inception over 30 years ago, and right here at NEC, only 1 female has been in a jazz honors ensemble for the last 9 years. Clearly, there's a lack of diversity in jazz, both in institutions and in professional settings. So I created El Paso Jazz Girls to help change this demographic, starting with my hometown. El Paso Jazz Girls is a cost-free program for female-identifying students age 11 to 18. Students learn from professional female musicians, meet and play with girls from all over El Paso, and create a support system. We had our inaugural clinic this past July, which drew girls from all 3 El Paso school districts, and as a result, 2 of our participants have been accepted into a citywide honors jazz band, which hasn't had females for the last 5 years. So changes are happening. This year, our June 2019 summer clinic is going to be bigger, longer, and include a final concert. We're expanding to a week-long program and hosting our concert at a local restaurant for a real-life gig experience. And to make our clinic bigger, we're expanding our age limit to include middle school girls, accepting all instruments and vocalists, regardless if they're found in a traditional big band. I'm hosting 3 recruitment events at El Paso schools and hiring 3 additional teaching artists to ensure that we can accommodate any instrument and help facilitate with ensembles. All of our teaching artists are El Paso natives, with the exception of 1, Grace Ward, who's from Austin, Texas. We're coming back from Austin, from Boston, from New York, because bringing home successful female musicians is eye-opening for participants. They're able to see various careers, opportunities, ask questions, and know that a life in music is attainable as a girl from El Paso. Lastly, we aren't just a drop-in, see you later kind of program. I've created epjazzgirls.com to serve as a resource for girls. We post monthly blogs that talk about questions that girls have, and I'm continually adding to our resource page, which includes stuff like how to book a gig in El Paso to dealing with audition anxiety. According to research done by Dr. Ariel Alexander, most young girls don't enter or drop out of jazz education due to the masculine image of jazz, gender stereotypes of instruments, and competitive and dominating settings. El Paso Jazz Girls is making direct strides to break these barriers. We're not only growing El Paso's jazz community, but we're bringing awareness and inciting others to take action on who they play with, hire, and learn from. I plan to develop El Paso Jazz Girls to become a statewide and eventually a national program, and this grant is essential to take the first steps towards making that a reality. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration.
Thanks. Amanda, can you talk a little bit about the, you said that all of the teachers except one are from the El Paso area. So are these teachers, current teachers, music teachers in the schools that you're working with?
Two of them are. One is a trombonist who teaches in a middle school district in El Paso, and another one is a high school choir director in El Paso. But we also have NEC alumna Stephanie Munoz, who's currently a band director here in Boston, but is from El Paso, so she comes back for it. Grace Ward is a current NEC student who's a teacher, and the other one, Joyce Yu, is a freelance El Paso lady.
Amanda, can you talk a bit about how do you, interface or partner with, the schools themselves, their music programs, how they sustain what they're learning in the summer program over the course of the year?
So thankfully, Cassie Cardenas, one of our teaching artists, is a district school teacher. So she's well aware of what they're teaching in classes, what they're providing to students, but also we create a curriculum that's flexible because this past inaugural clinic, we had a theory a theory class laid out, and we quickly learned that this was not working. So we changed it on the fly to address specifically what students needed at that time, and now we have a better idea of where people are at different ages.
Can you talk about some other things, having done this last summer, that you might change or adapt?
Yes, so starting early to publicize it has definitely been my main goal. So I'm doing recruitment events throughout the year. I'm already familiar with every band director and private teacher because I not only send emails, but I call them. So they already know that this is happening, and I've just been keeping in touch throughout the year. I learned that Facebook is not cool anymore, and Instagram is the way to go. So I create Instagram posts. I'm friends with all of our participants on Instagram. And in terms of the clinic itself, we had a 2-day clinic as our inaugural one, and it was too short. The girls themselves were like, we want this to be longer, we want a concert, so we're doing that this year, and we're including different elective classes like songwriting, free improvisation, jazz herstory, stuff that's applicable to instruments and vocalists who currently aren't allowed to audition for Texas All-State Jazz Band, which is another thing I'm working on. I've written letters to them.
Why is that?
So in Texas All-State Jazz Band, you have to play trumpet, saxophone, trombone, or guitar, piano, bass, drums. But there's so many amazing musicians who play flute, like Nicole Mitchell, cellists like Tamika Reed, and vocalists who are why shouldn't they be able to participate in jazz band in early education? So that's why we're trying to foster this in the summer.
And how many days are you aiming for this summer?
Just 5, Monday through Friday.
It's a lot of days.
Yeah.
It is.
I have a question just in terms of collaborating in the community. It looks like these are in public schools. So are you collaborating for your location with public schools, or?
Our clinic is actually held at the University of Texas at El Paso. My old band director is currently the associate band director there and is really supportive, books the rooms for us cost-free.
Great.
Yeah.
One really quick question. I love your logo. Did you design that, or did you?
So I have a friend, El Paso native, and amazing artist Naomi Weiner, who designed it, and I actually have stickers. If you all want some, I print them on my home computer and I give them out to all the participants and at recruitment events. So take one if you want, or take several. If you guys want some, just come see me. But Naomi Weiner, she's an amazing artist. She does like all my stuff.
Great.
So much.
Okay, hello. My name is Kyle Peck, and I'm here to talk about my business, Peck Custom Designs. Basically, it revolves around the need to provide the local and global musical community with handmade musical accessories, such as trombone triggers. As a brass player, I'm a trombone player at NEC. Many brass accessories that can attach to trombones and trumpets and tubas, but also, especially, I'm a manufacturer of conducting batons. Me and my dad first started this project when, early last semester, when I had the idea, you know, I play trombone. I said, how cool would it be to use these trombone triggers, and instead of just having, you know, the boring triggers that they manufacture onto the trombones, instead of creating these, you know, new, colorful, more ergonomically designed triggers that would make playing the trombone more comfortable and add some personality to the trombone. They look like this. My dad's a carpenter of 50 years, and so with my passion of music and his passion of carpentry, we decided to bring that together and create these accessories for trombones. And once we started making them and created a product that resembled a professional product that people would be interested in, it became much more popular than we had ever anticipated. The more we worked with it, the more we realized we could do so much more with this. And so we started making conducting batons. I'm sorry, those are more triggers that we've used. We've started making conducting batons out of these acrylic designs, which has actually never been done before in a high quality baton setting. They're incredibly durable, they're beautiful, and they add a level of personality to performance that really hasn't been seen before. On top of that, most importantly, Boston does not have a local baton maker. The closest baton maker is in Michigan, and with the flourishing classical music scene that we have in Boston, it would so greatly help the music community of Boston to have a local baton maker. I'm making very high quality conducting batons with my dad, who's just had so much experience. And if I could, with this grant, I could set up a second manufacturing location in Boston and actually offer the Boston community a local custom baton option. So basically, craftsmanship and quality aside, when it comes down to it, these products are fun. They bring people joy and add an individualized flavor to their instrument, and it's something that hasn't really seen the light of day before. Musicians spend a lot of time honing their craft, they build relationships with their instruments, and it enhances their experience both in practice and performance. In short, I think this project has great potential, it's sustainable, and I believe it embodies the entrepreneurial initiative that NEC encourages all of its students to have.
Kyle, so this business has been in existence now for, sounds like maybe 6 or 9 months or so?
About half a year. So I started last May.
And how have you marketed your products?
So far, originally, a lot of it has been face-to-face professional interaction. My teacher, for one, he's principal of Boston Symphony. He's helped me so much. I showed him the triggers, and he posted it on his website for sale. And with that got a lot of foot traffic and really kind of showed people that it was out there. And then I've gone to many seminars and sold it to people face-to-face.
And let me have a quick follow-up. Have you then developed this, I mean, as a, like, I don't know what the right terminology necessarily is, but an actual business that, if things are copyrighted or there's protection for the design and all that kind of stuff?
We're actually looking into a patent right now on these, on top of, as much as I can do with a business right now, about all I have is an Etsy page. And ideally with a grant, I would be able to have professional photography done, as well as set up a professional web page.
Do you have a sample of your product here?
I do, actually. Do you mind if I go grab it?
So, yeah. So I would like to see it.
It just so happens. Kyle, while you're grabbing that, I just want to applaud your nerdiness. The business of batons and triggers is really one of a kind thing, and I want to see them too. But also, my question would be, can you tell us how your triggers are different than normal triggers that one would buy? Why would this be an upgrade for someone that in need of a trombone trigger, as we all are? Oh, thank you.
Good example of
that's so great. Look at that. Okay. Partially answered my question already, but still.
As you can see, they're beautiful, and they're made out of this acrylic design. And this is one of my batons.
Oh, wow. Great.
Okay. So,
do you want?
Yeah, for one, that's actually a baton I did. I don't know if you know Teddy Milasky. He now works in the concert hall's office. I made that baton for him, and he said, I actually made it a little off balance on purpose for his grip.
I like it off balance. So.
But he ordered this baton. He'd been looking for a baton and actually had been going to a bunch of different baton manufacturers and hadn't been able to find what he wanted, mostly because they don't take as much care in making them by hand. And so I took exactly what he wanted and made it into what he quotes as a perfect baton for him. And for the trigger question, the normal triggers are just made from wood dowels. They're very uncomfortable. I actually have a friend who said that when she tried my triggers, she had small hands and she had hand pain whenever she played. And just by using this trigger, it made her hand pain go away.
Great. Excellent.
Oh, good.
Very great.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When I was a kid, my dad read me a comic book about Daredevil, this blind guy who, with the power of his cane, dished out justice as a lawyer by day and a vigilante by night. My dad described the pictures to me in vivid detail, and I was hooked. As I grew older, I tried to figure out how blind people could read comics independently. Though audio adaptations of comics exist, they're intended for sighted people and lack the details needed to keep blind people engaged. Movies are described for the blind, but poorly, and video games and virtual reality are inaccessible. I realized that this wasn't just my problem. 8.5 million blind people in the US, 3 million of them children, don't have access to contemporary forms of entertainment, only being able to fully enjoy books, music, and radio in an increasingly visually centric world. So I thought, hey, why not make some virtual reality for the blind? So first, I got in touch with Mark Waid, the author of the Daredevil comics, and asked whether I could adapt his work for the blind. He said yes. Then, I found an engineer at MIT and asked him whether he could create a motion simulating helmet to make you feel like you're flipping, flying, or falling through the air. And he said that he could, so off we went. With the help of an NEC EM, or Entrepreneurial Musicianship, grant, we were able to create the first pilot of this new immersive medium, a 15-minute 3D sound radio drama based on Wade's Daredevil comics. Then, the MIT engineer and I won the MIT 15K Creative Arts competition, which enabled us to start building the motion simulating helmet. With Grow Your Art's help, we will create high-quality radio dramas from other comic book series, such as Sandman and Hellblazer. Neil Gaiman and Jamie Delano, the series' respective authors, are excited to experiment with this new storytelling medium. I recorded the pilot with amateur actors. It was an effective way to make a demo, but isn't the quality that I need when pitching this project to comic book companies and potential investors. The Grow Your Arts funding will help us hire voiceover actors, thus adding nuance and depth to these productions. With this new medium, we're letting you be the hero. Fall, flip, and fly. Questions?
Matt, I've heard a little bit about this project and I love it so much. I have a very nitpicky question just because I want to make sure I fully understand it because I'm not a tech nerd. And I think I remember reading that you use haptics. Is that correct? Or is it something in addition to that?
New, old version. So
that's the old one, okay.
Yes. The way this helmet works is it uses wheels to affect your vestibular system, which is the thing that controls your sense of balance.
Okay. Okay, so down the road, are you thinking blind people will be able to experience this by, like, going and using it in a museum or a movie theater?
It's meant as an in-home device. Okay. Like, let's say someone buys virtual reality goggles, they're buying them, a sighted person, they're just buying them for themselves. So, according to our current calculations, this helmet will cost approximately $100 to $200. And that will enable a lot of state-based, since blind consumers don't have a lot of disposable income, this is where the state-based organizations such as the Massachusetts Commission for the Blind or schools for the blind such as the Perkins School in Watertown come in. And they would be able to purchase these devices and get them to consumers so that consumers can have these experiences.
Amazing. And have you talked to people, say, at the Perkins School or?
I've talked to the blindness organizations. There are 3 in the U.S. There's the American Foundation for the Blind, the National Federation, and the American Council. And all of them are very, very interested because a lot of their members who are older have really grown up with comics, but they haven't had access to the medium. Their siblings had, and their siblings read them, but they could never access. And just generally, because blind people have less sensory input, it's very important to make sure that they are fully engaged in the medium that they're experiencing.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you.
Hi, Matt, it's Annie. Do you have a working prototype of the helmet?
We're going to have one by the beginning of January.
Oh, great.
And the pilot is going to be done by November. I just need to score it, and then that'll be done.
And one other question, do you have any idea of the potential market size for this?
Yes. The potential market size is much larger than blind people because this helmet can be just used as a peripheral. Yeah. And as soon as the prototype will be done, we'll be working on incorporating it into video games and just like sighted person virtual reality so that sighted people can get these feelings as well. We don't want to limit ourselves.
But I'd also imagine that for the blind community, there would be other uses to this kind of technology as well.
It can be used in educational contexts, such as, like, I don't know, let's say you're teaching a lesson about space travel, and you need to talk about zero-G. This would be a way to really engage the blind child in the lesson, and not just, oh, there's a thing called zero-G.
That's great. Yeah.
So Matt, it's Suzanne again. You mentioned as sort of an aside, oh, I just have to score it.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what that process is like? And
so basically I'm basically doing sound design for this and scoring it. The score is currently in the works. It's primarily orchestral, but might have some kind of electronic elements to it. It's still in its rough stages, but that'll be done definitely by November 1st, because that's when our pilot is done.
And are you working with engineering technicians or sound
Yes. There's a studio in Roslindale called Futura Productions, and they're known for being experts in surround sound, in 3D sound. So they are the people who recorded all these actors and are working to make realistic 3D sound, so you can hear people from behind you and above you and below you, and so that really kind of transports you to the location.
And is part of the grant to pay for that studio time, or are they donating that, or how's that?
No. They're not donating that. No.
No.
That would be very kind, but no.
It would.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Can people hear me all right? I don't like to put a lot of effort into talking. Okay. Hi, my name is Nick Rosario. I'm a jazz trombonist and jazz composer. Today I'll be presenting my project, The Uncertain Suite. The Uncertain Suite is a film combining a 4-part musical suite with mini interviews with a professional counselor on the subjects of anxiety and depression. For nearly a decade, I have been aware of my anxiety and depression. The hardest part was thinking that I was alone or being miseducated about the resources available to me. Statistically, this is not true. According to the Center for Disease Control, the annual suicide rate increased 24% between the years 1999 and 2014. This, and combined with my personal experience and the statistic, inspired me to write this project. After each track, I will discuss the subject of the specific piece with the counselor to clarify the abstract nature of instrumental music. And I think this is a great way to clarify and destigmatize the feelings associated with anxiety and depression. If I should get the grant prize, I will use it to book recording time at NEC. I have already recorded a project here. It went very well. I was very happy. I will pay the media company, and I will pay the musicians the amount of money that they deserve. I think this is a great resource, educational resource, a great way to spread mental health awareness, potentially a great way to get my name out there. But most of all, people need to know they are not alone, and they have places to go, and they have people to talk to if they want to get help. Thank you. I'll be taking questions.
Hi, Nick.
Hey.
I like your project. Great idea. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you plan to disseminate the project? So how will you make other people know it's out there, or what communities specifically will you be reaching out to with it?
I will be trying to market to the general community. Mm-hmm. Because every statistic every year comes out that, especially with young people, that there's an increase in depression and anxiety. I think it's always been relevant in society. It's just that now we live in a time of social media where everything is exposed, and people are more and more willing to talk about it every year. So for this project to exist, I think now is the time.
Great.
Have you thought about any kind of I guess organizations, advocacy organizations with whom you could partner on this kind of thing?
I would be absolutely open to partnering with any, especially if they're giving funding, but also just to have their name. Absolutely open.
Would you settle for ice cream?
If I can sell that ice cream for $1,000.
There you go. There you go. But I mean, hearing you talk about the project, I had the same thought that there are a lot of great, like you say, this is a moment when we can suddenly talk about this, and a lot of people are talking openly about their experiences, and it's so important that this be an accepted thing that people are going through and that it's not stigmatized. And so it sounds like your project is all about creating that change, exploring that dynamic, and that it would seem there are a lot of organizational communities involved in that work that would probably be interested.
Absolutely, and they could probably help me in making the project more effective. I'm a pretty open book for people that know me, as you can tell. And I came out a few years ago on a large Facebook post because I found one of my old high school journals with bad poetry and stuff, and it took me back to that place. This was when I really discovered my issues. And I got a bunch of private messages that said I was brave. And I didn't know why. But I realized, like earlier when I was thinking about it, that in an ideal world, I don't want that to be seen as brave. I want that to be seen as normal.
Great.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Reina and I'm so happy to be back today to talk to you about a dream that came true in the form of a website. When I was 17, doing all the complicated college applications, in an email I wrote to my mom, I said, why does this have to be so hard? Why do I still have so many questions? I really wish there's a website that has everything. So, I was just like all the other applicants, stressed and scared. I feel like I was looking for a door in the dark. Not to mention, behind that door was where the real audition happens. We would all like to believe we are doing something for the future. We are becoming who we needed when we were younger. But very often we overcome problems in life and we don't look back because we are too busy. Last year was my 10th year in this country, and my friend Monica Young and I decided that it was time. So we launched Entrepreneurial. It was a one-stop website for students who are dreaming and planning to study music in the States, just like us 10 years ago. So far, we have almost 60,000 views in less than a year, and they are mostly but not limited to Chinese-speaking students, parents, and teachers. Entrepreneurial is where we turned our experience, knowledge, and this great privilege to have studied at 6 amazing schools into words, kind of like turning our emotions into actual music. Sounds difficult, but in reality, it just takes work, time, and patience. So, we started by making a list of things we needed and we wanted, a list of questions we asked, and a list of problems we saw. Schools have different website designs, so we created one where they come together. Schools have different wordings and terms, so we use the same words to explain all of them. Schools have different tuition rates and English proficiency requirements. We made a chart and we compared them all. Schools have different repertoire requirements. Well, I'll show around though. Each school, degree, and instruments has its own individual pages with specific admission information. We translated all the information word by word. We handpicked and credited all the pictures and videos. There are pages of useful tips, a Q&A page, and we welcome questions through an online form. We also described the actual audition day in detail. We learned to step back and view our lives from a new perspective. Our norm is still a mystery to them. And we also send out newsletters on a regular basis, such as checklists, helpful links, and reminders. Entrepreneurial, after all, it's all free, like we would have hoped. At the end, we cannot write their personal statements. We certainly cannot audition for them. And there are plenty of harder and more difficult problems waiting for them in the future. But in a way, we can entrepreneurial through the unnecessarily difficult part. I believe true entrepreneurship and musicianship is never as simple as making music or making money. It can also be about solving problems, and especially those obvious problems, and helping people as well, especially when we were once those people too. So if I were to receive the grant, it would be used to sustain the website for the years to come. We will use it to pay for the online domain fee and small promotional ads. We will also like to consider working with other people to make a Toronto multilingual. And we plan to expand our content creatively. We plan to conduct interviews and make short films with professors, current students, and alums. Not only will we ask them to talk about the schools, share advices, we also want to know why they chose to pursue this path. What did they wish for them when they were younger, and what drives them forward today? And if they know any, of course, and if they know any secrets about the schools. So thank you, and I thought I could take questions with our website tour video on the back. Thank you. Thank you.
Reina, it's a beautiful website. I was looking at it after I got the first the draft of your grant. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Where to start? So first of all, in looking at how beautifully laid out this is, and I clicked around on all of the different links, I understand that this was the brainchild of you and your friend.
Yes.
Are you two doing all of the back end as well, as far as you have learned to do all of your coding, or what platform are you using?
We use Squarespace.
Oh.
They offer like student discounts.
Right,
right. But yeah, all of these are our works, word by word, picture by picture, and all the newsletters too. I designed them also.
Right. So my other question is about, I know and you know, but maybe not everybody else knows, that there are a lot of, especially in some of the Asian countries, unscrupulous people out there who are looking to take advantage of students who are trying to apply to schools in the US, and so that's why I think this is such a wonderful idea. But I'm at the same time wondering if you have felt the need to have any kind of disclaimers, and I think, did it say 60 schools that you're?
20 schools.
20 schools,
yes.
Sorry. How you're choosing those schools?
Well, mainly those schools are, well, of course, our own schools. But the 20 schools are just schools that most students consider. We also do them, we try to do the schools we know. The schools we know people who are there right now or who graduated from there, but we are of course open to do even like more schools first.
So for instance, when you say we tell them what the audition process is really like,
yes.
That means even if it's a school that you and your co-founder haven't attended, you know people who've gone there or auditioned there.
Yes. And well, what I found was a lot of schools today are really, really open. They even have pages that just like, oh, so you check in first and you take the test, or you don't take the test, or what happens next? If you need to bring a repertoire list or not. I feel like a lot of schools are really, really open with that now. But it's just a matter of where you find that information. Mm-hmm. And what we put on the audition day page is just simple things that we know. But they don't, like, you walk in, you pick your first piece. That's something that we are so familiar with. We don't even question about it anymore, but they don't know. So I know a lot of kids, they go into audition and they just stand there, and then they may not be familiar with English, and the teachers go, oh, what do you want to play? And they get so, I just feel like the competition should be, well, I hate to use the word competition, but the competition of this whole thing should be in the music, in music only. That's what I know it's very idealistic, but that's what we are hoping for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like from what I see, it looks like a powerful tool for recruitment for schools. Like, have you personally reached out to schools and present your product?
Not yet. I ain't see it. Well, right now I ain't see it. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one other question. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Because maybe another resource, and there are even people here who kind of help students going through the application process, and that might be another resource. I guess it's more of a comment than a question, but who specifically try to walk students through the application process, even just domestically, too, because. And I think there are opportunities that even maybe further develop kind of what this this marvelous goal of trying to make the process as easy and straightforward as possible. So,
thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just one more quick question, Rena. You said you had 60,000 views.
Yes.
And how long has it been up?
Less than a year.
And do you have a sense of what's driving that traffic?
Yes, we do. Squarespace does a really, really detailed traffic analysis. So we know what our most popular pages are. We know where our visitors come from, actually. We know. Like, I have a list of countries like Taiwan or United States, and we know when they visit the website and how they found out about the website. So it's really, really, it's a powerful tool that we use.
And how did they find out about the website? What were some of the more common ones?
I remember it's half. So half of them came directly, meaning they Google it or they typed in our address, and half of it came from social media.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eric, and I am the cellist of the Kuma Trio, and I'll be presenting our pitch tonight. Unfortunately, the other two members are currently on tour in Alaska with Lincoln Center Stage. I live in New York City, so I'm the closest, so here I am. So our pianist Tong was nice enough to create a video presentation for us, so we will kick off with that.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tong, and here's Emily, and there's Eric, and we are the Kuma Trio. We're thrilled to present to you our project, Homecoming, a celebration of chamber music, new music, and an innovative cultural exchange between East and West. We will commission 3 new piano trios by 3 Chinese composers who are also NEC alumni, record and distribute a digital album, and perform an interactive concert series in both Beijing and Shanghai.
In China, classical music is thriving, but contemporary music is still mostly undiscovered. To interest Chinese audiences in new music, we're presenting the story of the Homecoming, the return of talented Chinese composers after years of training abroad to showcase their hard work, achievements, and a deep-rooted love and yearning for their homeland. By putting China's own young artists in the spotlight, our project appeals to both the new and nostalgic.
Moreover, we are bringing Chinese composers into a more prominent position in the contemporary music scene, advocating their works not only in North America, but around the world.
What you're hearing now is the beginning sketch of one of the commissioned works. It's a programmatic piece by composer Wesley Chu that tells the ancient Chinese legend of a female warrior general and her twin sister, titled General Mi and the Pastry Chef, The 3 Ox Lessons. Our 3-part concert series will include first a lecture recital, a traditional chamber concert, and finally a musical chairs workshop, where local conservatory students will take turns substituting into the trio and performing with us. This series will help Chinese audiences better understand new music in an educational, interactive, and collaborative experience. In the future, we aim to tour Asia, and thus this project is an important stepping stone towards building our network. We will use our grant funding for venue rentals, travel and accommodation, and commission fees.
So, why us? Between our trio and our composers, we already have a large network of connections and resources in China to make this project a success.
And I have previous experience creating, leading, and producing large-scale multimedia orchestra concerts for the Sankora concert series across the US and Canada.
Also, we love traveling and exploring the world and sharing with diverse audiences.
Most importantly, we're fun, creative, ambitious, resourceful, and very passionate about chamber music.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
I'll go. So have you all traveled to Asia yet to perform? Have you previously?
Not yet. This is a project that we just came up with. And we would really like to bring the Chinese composers that have had American training back to China, because China is a relatively untouched medium for new music in particular. And they hold classical music in such high regard that we feel it would be a really great place to kind of begin that process and kind of start our career, I guess, as a piano trio.
Yeah, that's great. With the educational component specifically, do you have connections at the conservatories there?
Yes, all 3 of our composers that we're working with have attended the Beijing Conservatory and the Shanghai Conservatory. Our pianist Tong did a residency with another chamber group that she was with last year at the Beijing Conservatory. And we have a few other connects that have also studied at those schools that can help us.
Great. I would ask my typical question, which is what's your promotion strategy, but I don't know if it seems like kind of the wild, wild west. I don't even know if I would be able to say that it was appropriate.
Our promotional strategy is going to be a little different. Once again, that's going to kind of rely on the composers that we're working with, because in China you don't have the traditional Facebook or YouTube or anything. So we will be working directly with them to use WeChat, Youku, and Weibo, I believe it's pronounced. And they can really help us kind of navigate these different types of social media that we're not familiar with. Also, part of our budget is set aside to hire a marketing firm to help us advertise outside of social media as well.
Great.
Just maybe a quick follow-up on that. So is your target audience within these conservatory settings mostly, or is it really much broader than that?
For the lecture series and the workshops, yes, that would be primarily within the conservatories. But then for the more traditional chamber concerts, that would be outside of the school to try to reach a more general and broader audience within the country.
So are you imagining that these concerts would be in what would be setting of venues that would typically have some kind of performance medium?
Yes, yeah. Just traditional recital halls, at least as far as outside the conservatories.
And so then you're thinking that this PR firm would help you try to secure those things, or is it their responsibility to try to get an audience for that?
Well, also one of our composers, Dion Wang, is already pretty well established in China. So he has a lot of connects with local news outlets, CCTV, and other various outlets within the cities. And then a lot of the support would really come from the faculty and the students that we're in touch with at the conservatories to help us promote all of this.
Great. Okay.
I would say, since we have so few questions, I would just say that one reason I don't have questions is because I thought your presentation was so clear what the objective is and how you're doing it and what is your past experience in achieving the project. So congratulations on that. It's really good.
Thank you.